On that cold, early morning, the city seemed completely empty. The wet streets reflected the dim light from the street lamps, while the wind cut across the face of anyone who was still awake at that hour. It was almost 3 in the morning, and he wandered aimlessly with slow steps and a mind destroyed by drugs. His body trembled from withdrawal, his eyes were red, and the hunger squeezed so hard it felt like it was tearing something out from inside him. Back then, nobody called him by his name. To many people, he was just another addict lost in the streets. A crackhead, as many would say with contempt. People crossed the sidewalk when they saw him coming. Some looked at him with pity, others with fear. But almost nobody could see that, behind that broken appearance, there was still a human being fighting against his own pain. But his life had not always been that way. When he was younger, he had dreams. He liked playing soccer, hanging out with friends, and imagined having a family, a simple house, and an honest job. His mother always said he had a good heart. She believed that God had something great reserved for his life. But everything started to change when he met the wrong friends. First came alcohol, then marijuana. And shortly after, even heavier drugs appeared. At first, he said he had everything under control. He said he only used it to have fun. He said he could stop whenever he wanted. But addiction is silent. When he realized it, he was already trapped. The days started turning into lost nights on the streets. The money disappeared quickly. His job started being affected. He arrived late, missed work without warning, and could no longer keep up with his own routine. Until he got fired. After that, the situation got completely worse. Inside the house, his mother suffered in silence. Many nights she stayed awake waiting for him to come home. And when he showed up, he almost always came altered, aggressive, or completely out of his mind. Even so, she never gave up on him. Every early morning, kneeling beside her bed, she prayed crying and said, "Lord, I refuse to lose my son to drugs. Protect his life wherever he may be." But at that time, he did not want to hear about God. He thought church was for weak people. He said his life no longer had any solution. Time kept passing, and the destruction kept growing. He started sleeping in abandoned places, lost friendships, and even family members drifted away. There were nights when he thought dying would be easier than continuing to live that way. And it was on one of those early mornings that the story happened that he would never forget. He was walking through the streets starving when he saw a hot dog cart open on a corner. The smell of the food almost made him lose his mind. Some men were there talking and laughing loudly. Then one of them looked at him and shouted, "Hey, you hungry?" He answered barely with any strength, "Yeah." The man then grabbed a bottle of hot sauce and said jokingly, "Then do this. Chug this hot sauce first, and I'll give you a hot dog." The others started laughing. At that moment, hunger spoke louder than dignity. Without thinking much, he grabbed the bottle and drank the whole thing at once. The feeling was horrible. It felt like fire going down his throat. His eyes immediately filled with tears, his chest burned, and his stomach started turning. Even so, he tried to hold it in. He grabbed the hot dog and ate it practically without chewing. The men kept laughing while watching that scene. A few minutes later, he could not take it anymore. He started getting sick in the middle of the street. He threw everything up and collapsed sitting on the sidewalk, completely humiliated. While those men walked away laughing, he stayed there alone, feeling not only the physical pain, but also an enormous shame deep inside his chest. The next day, he woke up destroyed. Fever, stomach pain, and a terrible feeling of emptiness. But what hurt the most was not the hot sauce. It was realizing the point his life had reached. He was trading his own dignity for food. The years went by, and the addiction continued controlling his life. Sometimes he promised his mother that he would change. He stayed clean for a few days, but he always ended up relapsing. Until one day, something different happened. After spending hours wandering through the city, completely high and lost, he walked into a church just to escape the rain. He did not even know what service it was. He only wanted a dry place to sit. He walked in with his head down, wearing dirty clothes and carrying the strong smell of the streets. He sat on the last bench trying not to draw attention. Nobody kicked him out of there. Nobody pointed fingers at him. And during that service, the pastor said a sentence that pierced his heart. "Maybe everyone gave up on you, but God has not lost your address." At that moment, he felt a knot in his throat. He tried to hold back the tears, but he could not. It had been a long time since he felt seen as someone who still had value. That night, something started changing inside him. it was not an instant transformation. It was a daily battle. The first months were difficult. His body missed the drugs. The withdrawal crises came, the sleepless nights, and the constant desire to give up. Many times he cried in secret, asking for strength to continue. But little by little, God started rebuilding his life. He got a simple job in construction. He started as a helper, carrying heavy materials and doing the hardest work. Even so, he was grateful. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he was trying to live honestly. As time went by, he learned painting. He discovered that he had talent for the job and started earning the trust of the supervisors. His mother started smiling again, and he began to experience something he had not felt in years: peace. Then the year 2019 arrived. He got work on a huge construction project, a massive 32-story building. To him, that was more than just a job. It was proof that his life was truly changing. That morning, he was working up high when the radio communicator went off. "Hey, come down here real quick. There's a painter looking for work." He answered that he was already on his way. He stepped into the elevator without imagining that his entire past was waiting for him at the gate of that construction site. When the elevator doors opened and he looked ahead, he froze. It was him, the hot dog man, the same man who years earlier had made him drink an entire bottle of hot sauce while he was starving on the street. At that moment, it felt like time had stopped. His heart started racing. 1,000 thoughts ran through his mind all at once. A voice inside him said, "Now it's your turn. Humiliate him too." And for a few seconds, his flesh wanted to do exactly that. He wanted to look into that man's eyes and make him feel the same shame he had felt on that early morning. But then another voice spoke louder inside his heart. "No. Today you are going to bless this man." He started walking slowly toward the gate. Every step felt heavy. When he got close, the man lifted his eyes and recognized him immediately. His expression completely changed. He became uncomfortable and even tried to leave. But he reached out his hand and calmly said, "It's all good. What did you come here for?" The man answered nervously, "I'm a painter. I'm looking for work." Then he looked firmly at him and said, "Want to do a test?" The man was surprised. "Really? Of course, come up with me." The two of them went up to one of the floors of the construction site. He handed the man some materials to work with and stayed watching. To his surprise, the man really was a great professional. After analyzing the work, he called the supervisor and asked, "What did you think of him?" The supervisor answered, "Good guy, works the right way." At that moment, he clearly realized that God was testing his heart. He could choose revenge or mercy. Then he looked at that man and said, "Tomorrow you can already start officially hired. Everything properly set up." The man's eyes filled with tears. But God was not finished yet. After work, he got into his pickup truck to go home. But while driving, he started feeling something strong in his heart. The Holy Spirit was speaking to him. "Buy groceries for that family." At that moment, he answered out loud to himself, "No, Lord. I already gave the guy a job." But that voice kept insisting. When he drove past a grocery store, it felt like he could not keep driving. So he went in, he grabbed a shopping cart, and started putting food into it. Rice, beans, pasta, oil, milk, side dishes, meat, cookies, yogurt. It was not a small grocery trip. It was real groceries. And then something strange came into his heart. Take diapers. He thought, but I do not even know if he has kids. Even so, he obeyed. He grabbed Pampers diapers, the good ones. When he finished, the cart was full. He paid for everything, loaded it into the pickup truck, and drove to the address the man had given him. When he parked in front of the house, he heard a woman praying inside. She was crying on her knees, saying, "Lord, send provision to our house today." At that moment, chills ran through his entire body. He grabbed the groceries and knocked on the door. When the man opened it, he was in shock. He could not believe what he was seeing. And that was when he saw a scene he would never forget. A small child came running down the hallway, without a diaper, using an improvised plastic bag. At that moment, he felt his eyes fill with tears, because he understood everything. God had allowed him to go through humiliation years earlier, so that one day he could use his life to bless that exact family. The man started crying desperately. "Man, after everything I did to you, but he hugged that man tightly and answered, "Jesus also forgave me when I did not deserve it." The wife was crying, the children were smiling, and in that simple house God was restoring two lives at the same time. Then the man looked at him and said, "Today I believe again. I'm going back to Jesus." And he did. As time went by, that man restored his marriage, returned to church, and became a deacon. That family's life completely changed. And years later, looking back, he understood something powerful. If on that day he had chosen revenge, maybe an entire family would never have been restored. Because the enemy wanted to create hatred, but God wanted to create a testimony.